Welcome to the Social Engineer Podcast, the Human Element Series. This is episode 278. I'm Chris Hadnaghi, CEO and founder of Social Engineer, the Innocent Lies Foundation, and the Institute for Social Engineering. And this podcast has been around since 2009, if you can believe that. As always, we want to say our sponsor is our company, but I have something really exciting. This is coming out October 14th, which means you have only about 12 more days if you haven't signed up yet to come to the Human Behavior Conference. Joe Navarro, Dr. Abby Morono, and myself will be holding a whole day conference on how to communicate better using nonverbals, influence principles, elicitation, and pretexting. You can get more information on humanbehaviorcon.com. If you like the topic of social engineering, you should be in our Slack channel. Each and every day we have, probably over 2,000 people in there now talking about all aspects of social engineering. It is family friendly and legal. So if that sounds like you, join us. You can find the link in the show notes. If it does not sound like you, you can find somewhere else to go. Thank you very much. We've had a couple problems, as you can tell. Also, I want to invite everyone to go check out innocentliesfoundation.org. If you're not familiar with the nonprofit there, we started that over 7 years ago. Our mission is to help law enforcement geolocate people who traffic children and create child abuse material. We have done over 530 cases now. The website is filled with information for you as a parent or a caregiver if you need to talk to children about these dangers. Or if you sadly were a victim of these things, we have a really nice doctor's corner in there talking about how to survive trauma and shame and things like that. And if you want to support us, you can do so through voluntary donations. It would be really great as we are a nonprofit and we want to continue our mission. Just go to Innocent Lies Foundation and you can check that out. And last but not least, if you like the music in the show, it is none other than the band Clutch, the best rock and roll band on earth. Go to clutchmerch.com and check them out. Obviously, everyone here knows the story. Neil, the lead singer, helped me start ILF 7 years ago. So I'm a huge fan. I've been a huge fan of them since I was 17, even more now because of that. And they're just a good group of guys, all family men. If you liked the episode today, give us a thumbs up, a heart, a like, and keep your comments coming in, please. It really helps us to pick new guests and to look for different topics that you're looking for. And let's get to the point now, why we're all here. Let's talk about our guest, Melanie Avalon. She's an actress, a health influencer, author, and the host of the Melanie Avalon Biohacking Podcast, the Intermittent Fasting Podcast, and the Mind Blown Podcast. Melanie created the top Apple app, Food Sense Guide, and founded the supplement line AvalonX. Melanie has appeared on the cover of Biohackers Update Magazine as a featured speaker in Dave Asprey's Biohacking Conference and in numerous publications, including USA Today, Forbes, LA Weekly, Entrepreneur, CNBC, and Fox. Melanie, it's awesome to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris. I'm so excited to be here. And you and I were just talking how you've been on my show, and I didn't even realize today that this was me being on your show. So I'm so excited to be here. This is so fun.
A little fun fact about you, when you say, actress, that's true, but you were in some pretty cool, you were in Sharknado.
Yeah. There's a whole story behind that.
Well, that's pretty awesome. Come on. That is like a classic B movie. Everyone has seen it. You love it. But you were in some pretty cool things.
Back in the day. Yeah. That movie, we didn't even know what it was at the time. And so
really,
it's like a dark part of my past, but here we are.
Oops. Sorry. We won't bring that one up. But when we think about all the things that we just read, okay, health influencer and podcaster, actress, author, how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah. Such a good question. I feel like there's a few key ways I got here, and a lot of them I feel like are ways that a lot of people experience. So I became obsessed with the science of food and diet and all of that stuff because I was always trying different diets growing up, which I know a lot of people can identify with. And it wasn't until I actually realized the profound effect that actual food choices rather than counting calories and fad diets could have on our health that I became really obsessed with that whole world. And that led to intermittent fasting. And this was before intermittent fasting was a colloquial term that, people knew about. And then on top of that, I also experienced some health issues, which kind of led me to the world of biohacking, where I was just trying to find the things that could make me feel better. And, what ultimately came from that is I had always wanted to do a podcast ever since I was little. I was listening to podcasts in middle school, and it was the perfect platform to share my findings with others. And it kind of just evolved from there into everything I'm doing today. It's so fun. I'm so grateful that like you're a podcaster. Like I'm so grateful that we have the agency to create these shows and share and things that we wouldn't really be able to do in the past. So
yeah, I agree with that. Think about our parents' time. I mean, they had to be on a radio show or a TV show, and that was very far and few between. Now we get to share this that way. Okay. You use this phrase, biohacking. So can you define that for us? Like, what is biohacking?
Sure. So biohacking, it's kind of nebulous. The way I define it is using modern tools and technology and supplements and hacks to basically optimize your performance and your biology. It's the whole self-quantification movement where people are trying different things and then looking at their blood work and seeing what helps them actually perform better, potentially live longer. So that's a really vague, nebulous idea. But the way I kind of see it is it's kind of like using modern technology to revert our bodies back to the way we were before modern technology, which is kind of ironic. But before our modern lifestyles, we were outside and moving and being exposed to extreme temperatures, and all of that really informed our evolution and what works best for our bodies now. Today, we're sedentary, we're indoor lighting, we're messed up circadian rhythms, same temperature all the time. So with biohacking, you can do things like cold exposure and sauna and wear blue light blocking glasses to address your light exposure. So it's a really fun world. I love being in it. There's a lot of aspects to it.
So so we can kind of quantify it, can you give us some examples of like your favorite biohacks?
Sure. So like right now, if people are watching, I have an Oura ring on my finger. So that is a ring that monitors your heart rate variability, your heart rate, your body temperature, your activity levels, your sleep cycles, your respiration, all the things. And every single day when you wake up, it gives you a sleep score and a readiness score. So it basically tells you how well you slept and how well did you recover from the day before. And so then with that data, you can make informed choices about how intensely should you approach the day. Should you be really active? Should you rest more? It's a really, really cool device. And it can also show you how things affect your sleep. So that's like one of my favorite wearables. Other wearable things I'll wear like a continuous glucose monitor sometimes, which historically were used and are used for diabetes control. But biohackers will wear them because you can monitor your blood sugar. You can see how you're responding to food, to exercise, to your life. And then you can really find the habits and the dietary choices that work best for you. So that's another example. Every day after this, for example, I'll go do a session of cryotherapy, which is where you go in really cold temperatures. So the one I go in, it's like around negative 160 degrees for 3 minutes. And it feels really nice. Wow. So many health benefits though.
You don't get frostbite or you don't get,
no,
it doesn't hurt your skin?
No. So there's different types. There's two main types. One uses nitrogen gas. So that one that you go in, it's like foggy. That one's not quite as intense on the skin. You just wear like a robe and socks and shoes and mittens. Some use circulating air. That's what I've been going to now. And for that one, you also have to wear a mask and something on your ears. But, no, it's actually completely fine as long as you're in there for just like 3 minutes. And the studies on it show that it releases a lot of feel-good neurotransmitters. So it can release dopamine and adrenaline and basically make you feel good. Actually might have longer term lasting effects on mood. And then it's highly anti-inflammatory, the cold. We actually have something called cold shock proteins that get activated with cold that have a lot of health benefits. So
is that similar to like the cold plunge pools you see everyone doing now?
Yeah, that's the same idea to get that cold shock. And people can do it. So that might seem, I know one of the issues or barriers to biohacking is it can feel a little not approachable for people who aren't in that world, but you can do it yourself with like a cold shower. That's a good way to start is either a completely cold shower or at the end of your warm shower, ending with a cold blast at the end and slowly working up with that.
Yeah. Slowly working up, I would imagine for people who haven't done it. I love what you said. I don't wear the Oura, but I wear the Whoop. And I use it the same way you said, before I hit the gym, I can look at the data from the night before, how well I slept, and it will help me understand, if last week, this lift, I was doing X, and then this week, man, I just feel so much weaker. And it's like, oh yeah, look at the data. I mean, I just slept like garbage last night, or I didn't have great rest or things like that. And it really helps to kind of temper what you do with that kind of data. So I like that one.
Yeah. I'm all about data. Like I love data.
Yep. Okay. I'm almost afraid to ask this one, but I think it's a question that naturally comes up when we talk about biohacking. What is the role of alcohol and how does that play in like our longevity or in the biohacking process or anything like that?
Yeah. So I love this question so much because it's hotly debated and I have a little bit of a contrary opinion. I actually had an article published, I think like 2 weeks ago in Fox all about this, where I talked about the benefits of wine for heart health.
Oh, I love you. I was afraid you were going to say like, no alcohol, you can't do it.
No, I've become like a go-to source for like thoughts on wine. I have a lot of caveats though, Okay. So first of all, when we look at the role of alcohol in health, it's pretty consistently a J-shaped curve, and that's with epidemiological correlational data. But basically what that means is people who don't drink at all have actually less health outcomes or less better health outcomes than people who drink a little bit. The sweet spot is a little bit to moderate. And then once you're heavy drinking, that's bad. But it does
extremes on either side.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
Okay.
And we do know the longest lived populations, with the exception of Loma Linda, all drank alcohol. And there's a lot of mechanistic reasons for why it may have benefits for the heart, in particular, cardiovascular health, anti-inflammatory potential of a lot of the polyphenol compounds in it. People might have heard of resveratrol. That's kind of the most, quote, famous, probably polyphenol in red wine that may have some of its health benefits. All of this to say, I think one of the biggest maybe gaps or loopholes or issues with the data on alcohol and health is in the studies, they often use broad categories like drinking or not drinking, or it'll just be like alcohol. Even if it's wine, it'll be like, usually it's just like wine. Maybe they'll be like red wine, white wine, but there's not a lot of studies. I mean, I've seen barely any that look at the quality of what people are drinking. So I think there's a big difference between drinking an organic, lower alcohol, lower sugar wine from Europe compared to conventional wine in the US, which is often high sugar, high alcohol, and actually full of additives. Most of the wine in the US is owned by a few big brands, and they can pump a lot of stuff into the wine to make it all look the same. It's kind of like a production. So actually, here's a fun fact. Sometimes people think red wine dyes their teeth red. That's probably not from the wine. It's probably because there's a colorizer called Mega Purple that is added to a lot of conventional wine to make it all the same color. So my point here is people are really familiar with the processed food industry and the issues with that. I think there's a big problem with conventional wine as well. So when it comes to the health benefits, people will feel way different. If you want to biohack your wine exposure or your alcohol, make conscious choices to drink organic wine, preferably European wine. Look up the alcohol percentage. So I have like my whole protocol when I go to the restaurant to find the wine that will make me feel better the next day. So I think that's really important. And then if you're drinking like hard alcohol, I would go with clear spirits. So like vodka, gin, like clear tequila with minimal mixers or mixers like, lime or club soda, not adding lots of sugar and things like that.
But I'm a huge Scotch fan. Scotch fan. I'm a huge whiskey fan.
Yeah. So that's the other thing is that was something that blew my mind. I always thought that the color from liquors came from, I thought it was natural. I didn't realize it's often like added, especially like when you see like tequilas and things like that. So yeah.
Now from whiskey, it comes from the wood,
the barrel
that it's aged in. Yeah, the barrel that it's aged in. But okay, so you have a ton of questions now based on what you just said. So you said there's a few health benefits to wine. So and you mentioned some things about the heart. But are there other health benefits to wine?
Yeah. So when it comes to the heart, people debate this and research this a lot. It's possible that alcohol helps support dilate your blood vessels and help with NO production. I think that's actually probably one of the the main reasons that it's really helping with the heart. I mentioned these polyphenols like resveratrol and things like that. So basically those are signaling mechanisms to our body. They're produced in the plant originally for protective purposes of the plant against the environment. But then when we take them, they actually can have a hormetic stress in our body, which is basically low dose exposure to a small stress, which makes our stress response respond more beneficially and like build itself stronger. So it can activate different longevity pathways in our body. And there's lots of different mechanisms for that. When it comes to weight and things like that, it's possible that some of these compounds actually can affect our fat cells. So there's one compound in red wine called p-cetanol, and it's been shown in, I think it's rodent studies, but it's been shown for fat cells actually stop the formation of fat cells, of like new fat cells. And again, that's not human data, it's mechanistic data, but it's all really interesting, the potential there. And this is interesting. So I just recently interviewed on my show the researchers behind the MIND diet, which is the largest studied diet for prevention of cognitive decline and Alzheimer's. I was so excited to interview them because I've been following them for so long. Their official diet to prevent cognitive decline actually includes a glass of wine. So that's interesting.
That is interesting because you always hear these other studies that say like alcohol is linked to Alzheimer's and dementia and things like that. So, but it makes more sense, right? I mean, think about like, my whole history is from Italy. Italians drink wine like from when they're kids, they drink wine. Little kids, they have a glass of wine. So that, when you go to Italy, you see those people, they're healthy. They live a long life.
Exactly. And like I said, a lot of it is that correlational data. So especially with the MIND diet, their original study was looking just at massive populations and what were people eating and drinking that most correlated to, brain health and prevention of cognitive decline. And that's where the wine came into play. But you're mentioning like Italy. I think a lot of that does go back to what I was saying before with the standards surrounding the drinks. And it's just a different quality of drinks often in Italy and Europe compared to the US. I don't like the stuff here.
No, I'm with you. I remember last time we went to Italy, we learned that the labels on the top of the bottle, if you see COD or CODG, the CODG is the highest rated. So it has the purest form of this is for red wine in Italy. And it's the Italian board that certifies the quality of the wine. So every time I buy Italian, I just make sure it either has COD or CODG on the top. And, that ensures your quality. And I've never had a red teeth problem. So I'm kind of happy to hear that. I'm with you. I mean, there are some California wines that I like, but overall, I'm more of an Italian kind of wine guy for sure.
I love that. And another little hack for listeners is, cause I'm so intense when I go to restaurants, picking out my wine, looking for cooler climates. So that's why like the European and the Italian wines can often be better for this compared to like California or like Australia or something like that. And that's because the cooler climates tend to produce lower sugar wines. So that also can have a good effect as well, and lower alcohol.
So since we're talking about, alcohol and biohacking, let's get the obvious question out. How can you biohack a hangover?
Yes.
If you didn't listen to you and just have minimal, like if you actually overdrank one day, how do you biohack a hangover?
Yeah. Because I was going to say, step one is like choosing what you're drinking, right. But regardless. So my favorite thing to do, I'm a little bit obsessed now with supporting NAD. Have you heard of this?
I have. NAD? Yes. I have heard of NAD.
Yeah. So basically it's, the way when you see it written down, it's NAD with a little plus sign, but the plus is silent. And, so NAD is our master metabolic enzyme in our body, coenzyme, I think, actually. It's basically involved in every single energetic process that we do. Like literally everything that you do requires NAD. And it's depleted by things like aging, stress, alcohol, partying, all the things that kind of wear us down, are taxing on our NAD. So a big part of the biohacking science world right now is about supporting NAD levels. And there are different ways to do this. It's also very debated. So you can take precursors to support it. There's a whole debate out there about which one is best because there's one called NMN and there's one called NR. It's a heavily debated. And I think a lot of that has to do with people that are at play with patents and stuff in each world.
Right.
But my favorite way actually to support NAD is actually not through the precursors. It's through direct NAD, getting it straight into your body. So what I used to do, you can go into wellness centers and get NAD shots. You can also get NAD IVs. I have not done an IV. They're really, really expensive, and I've heard they're massively unpleasant. So I've always been like, I'm not going to spend all this money to sit there and feel horrible.
Yeah.
The shots I used to get, intramuscular, they would make me feel a little bit unwell for right after, but then feel like, I guess better. It was sort of hard to quantify. Coming back to your question about hangovers, the thing I love now is I found a brand that makes transdermal NAD patches that you just put on, put on your shoulder or wherever actually. And so when I go out, I wear one of those and or the next day I will put another one on, and it's a game changer for the alcohol stuff.
Love to get a link to that amazing. Because the only NAD I've seen it was a shot form, and a lot of places that sell like TRT and others will sell that, and it was subcutaneous injections, so not intramuscular. And I did try it, and it was quite well, I've never tried it for this. I didn't know anything about that, but it was supposed to be for like cognitive and thinking and stress reduction and stuff like that. And I found it to be quite impressive. But I would love to hear about a patch. That would be amazing.
Yeah, I can connect you to the company, and I'm sure they can give you a code for your listeners.
That would be amazing. Because
I know that can happen. So should I tell the company and you can put in your link later?
Yeah, that'd be great. Please.
The company's IonLayer. So
excellent.
I will connect you, and then you can let the listeners know the code.
Thank you. Yeah, that would be great because, for the hangover thing, I was already in love with the idea of NAD, which is all the good effects that it has for your cognitive load and that kind of thing and energy. And I was also reading something. I'm not sure if this is accurate or if I'm misrepresenting it with something else, but the NAD is an assistant in repairing things like, either muscularly or neuro. Does it help repair that? Is that something else that it's involved with? So
it's not so much that the NAD itself is literally doing the repairing. It's that any repair process, I'm assuming, it's that any repair process would be using NAD to do that process.
Okay.
So it's required for everything.
Okay. So another question, something you talk about is EMF exposure. So before we even get into it, what is EMF exposure?
Yes. So EMF, refers to the electromagnetic fields that, granted, are all around us and have been all around us. So that is, I am accepting that fact. Our exposure today is just shot through the roof because of all of our technology, our Wi-Fi, our Bluetooth. So EMF, a certain type of EMF, specifically the type that we're exposed to from our cell phones, everything I just mentioned, our Wi-Fi, are classified by the IARC as group 2B carcinogens. And what's interesting about that is also in that category, people freak out about like red meat and processed meat, and they're like, oh, it's a carcinogen. That's also considered a group 2B carcinogen. So it's in the same category. So if people are freaking out about that, they need to freak out about EMFs as well. And interestingly, this is my favorite fun fact. If you go into your iPhone, assuming they don't change this, but if you have an iPhone and you go into the legal section, there is a section called RF exposure. If you read it, it's a lot of legal stuff. It basically says that the phone has been tested for safety and passes all safety. And then it says, it actually suggests that you use your phone on speakerphone. So
wow.
I feel like if Apple is taking the time, like if they put that in there, it means there's something happening when you're not using it on speakerphone, putting it by your head.
Wow.
Yeah. So how can we, what's actually happening with EMFs? Like, why are they a problem? So they actually affect the calcium gated channels of our cells. And there's been a lot of studies on health issues that they're linked to. So especially things like migraines and anxiety and things like that. There's studies in particular on fertility issues, especially for men holding their phones in their pockets. It has been shown to affect sperm quality from the EMFs. I get really nervous about, especially women who are pregnant and like, having their laptop on their stomach or things like that. So people can reduce their EMF exposure a lot of different ways. The good news is it drastically decreases the farther you get a device away from you. So going back to the iPhone example, there's a big difference between holding it to your head and holding it on speakerphone. Like it doesn't seem that much farther away, but it's kind of exponentially different. So keeping things not right on you that are these, basically, what's the word? They're like just receiving the frequencies and sending them. And then, so Wi-Fi, I turn my Wi-Fi off at night. I don't use Wi-Fi unless I have to. So my computer right now is using Ethernet. I shudder when I see people using AirPods. I know they're like really popular and everybody.
I was going to ask that. I was going to ask, is that a replacement for speakerphone?
No, do not use AirPods. That's like literally that's like putting an antenna right by your head. I'm really like nervous about the long-term effects of AirPods. I would just not.
I use them like every day.
Most people do. And I've heard in the
gym. I mean, how do you listen to music in the gym? You don't have wired stuff anymore.
So the thing about that's funny is, if you've never used them, like me, I've never used them. It's completely doable not to use them. So I just use like wired, headphones all the time. And, I don't feel like I'm missing out. It's like life is not hard, but I know that if I were to start using them, it would seem really hard to go backwards.
No, actually, I don't mind wired, but like, where do you put your phone? You have a holder or something, like a thing on your arm or on your hip that you hold the phone? I
just hold it. Oh, you're saying, but at the gym. So back in the day when we can talk about that later, but I don't really go to the gym much. I would just put the phone in the cup holder and have the headphones.
Yeah. Harder to do when you're lifting weights, because I have some wired headphones that I use on my phone when I travel for, like phone conversations, because they're higher quality than earbuds. Then there's a plug into the USB-C port. And I use them often, but I did not know that about. I was thinking, well, if you need to put it on speakerphone, I definitely don't want to be on speakerphone in public if you're having a private conversation. So I was thinking, you need some earphones, but okay, that's interesting. And
then on top of that, so even the wired ones are way better than holding the phone to your head or using using AirPods. But even those can transmit EMFs to your brain. So that's why I haven't launched it yet, but I'm launching a line of EMF blocking products, and we're starting with EMF-free headphones. Oh. So the way they work is, and I'm excited because, for people, I don't know if people are familiar, but the whole EMF blocking product world, it's kind of masculine. Like it's a lot of masculine products. So I'm going to start making more women focused ones. So I'm going to have a pair of black and a pair of rose gold headphones. But the way they work is they actually are electrical. I'm wearing a prototype right now. They're electrical up into where the microphone is. And then after that, from the microphone to your head, it actually switches the audio back to analog. So there's actually literally no electricalness going to your head.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's exciting.
And what's the, since you're using them, what's the quality of the sound like? Does it degrade because of losing that electrical power or not? It
is not the same as being completely electrical because it is, transferring, like I said, to analog. But it's still, it's kind of the same thing as like what I was saying earlier about if you have never used AirPods, you don't know what you're missing. So like, if you were just using these, I don't think you would realize, but if you switch back and forth, you probably will realize. But it's all sound, no radiation. So I think it's worth it.
Yeah. Very interesting. Well, congratulations on that. That sounds like an exciting way to support your, support the things that you're talking about here too, is having products that actually promote the things that you're saying. So that's kind of cool.
Thank you.
So along that line, because you talked in your bio, we talked about how like you also are very involved in supplements. So that's for me, that's like a huge topic all the time. You go to the gym and everyone has their opinions on what's the best and what's not. How do you choose the best supplements that will help with your health and longevity and just overall just feeling good every day?
Yeah. So kind of similar to talking about the EMF blocking product line. And I'm really glad that you picked up on that. Like the reason I create products is because there's a need that I personally have. So I'm doing it honestly for myself. And so when it comes to the supplements, there's a lot of supplements that I love taking. And stepping back, in our dream world, we wouldn't even need supplements. We would just get all the nutrients we need from food and all the things. That said, our modern diets, our lifestyles are very depleting on a lot of nutrients. So I think supplements can be really important for some nutritional supplements. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, when it comes to the pursuit of longevity and the fountain of youth, there's a lot of supplements which may optimize our performance and help with just health related things and all of that. So I am a supplement fan, despite thinking in the ideal world, we wouldn't need them. All of that said, the supplement world is very murky with its waters. And it's honestly, when I go see the supplement aisles at the store, I would not put in my body the majority of what I see on the shelf. And so many people don't even just turn around to they just look at the front of what it says it is, and they don't actually look at the ingredients. So many of these things have all these extra fillers, often sugar, which is crazy. They'll have dextrose and maltodextrin, which are all related to sugar. They'll have rice, which is really common. A lot of emulsifiers, a lot of fillers. There's just so much stuff in there that dyes. That drives me crazy. There'll be dyes. So I really want pure as possible versions of what I put in my body. And then on top of that, a lot of the supplements on the market, when they actually do tests for purity or potency, are just not good. There's a really shocking study that looked at tons of different melatonin brands on the market, and the range of what they actually found of melatonin was shocking. From basically not even in it, and instead having something else in it, to multiple times what it said was in it. And this was mainstream brands. If you really want to have a fun time, I don't think anybody would actually do this, but you can actually look at all the FDA letters. It's all public. It's public on the internet. So you can look up and see for supplement companies if they've had FDA, if they've had the FDA, crack down on them for anything. And when I was developing, I think it was when I was developing my berberine supplement, I was looking up all of the main berberines on Amazon. And we found letters with one of the main companies on Amazon selling a berberine with hundreds of reviews. And it was talking about how they found wheat or gluten, and this is horrible, rat feces and the related. It's really, really crazy. So I would be really careful with supplements and really vet the companies that you're getting them from. So when I created my own, I decided I wanted to make my own version of everything I currently take, because then I know that I can trust it. Right. And also they're all in glass bottles. It's really hard to find supplements in glass bottles. So yeah, it's just nice to be able to feel good about what I'm putting in my body.
Yeah. Yeah. I've read stories before about supplements getting tested and either having none of the products they claim are in there, or having really horrible things. I haven't read those reports that you're talking about. Normally, before I start taking anything, I usually go to the internet to look for reviews, and not from the company. You go to Reddit. Reddit people are they're brutal, right? So if you find a forum on Reddit that will review the reviews, and they'll tell you exactly how they made you feel. I've done that a few times, taken a pre-workout without doing a research first, and it felt like it was going to kill me. So yeah, I'm with you. That can be really terrible, and waste a lot of money too. I mean, supplements are not cheap. So when you buy them, and then like you said, it's half of it's sugar or fillers, you're what am I paying for? It's really terrible. It's
so true. And just quick comment on the Reddit. I love Reddit. It has all the answers. I will be Googling for something and can't find anything, and then I just add the keyword Reddit, and then it's bam. And the people know, they know the answers. So, yeah. But yeah, the money, honestly, like you were saying, a lot of the times the money is just money down the drain. I would really, really vet the brands. There's honestly, besides my brand, there's only a very few brands that I would purchase.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do agree with you about Reddit, because what was it? There was a documentary about that community, uncovering people's crimes and things like that. They just get so involved in digging deep into things. It's really crazy how the Reddit community gets. They can be a little mean sometimes, but You get your honest opinions for sure from there.
It's so true. I know. I've made the mistake of Googling like my name in Reddit sometimes. And I'm like, no, bad idea. No. Let's not do that.
Then you need an antidepressant after that.
I know.
So, Melanie, if people want to follow you or they want to find out more about some of these things you mentioned, like these biohacks or your supplements, what's the best place to go to get information about you?
Sure. So all my main content is at melanieavalon.com. I'm on Instagram as Melanie Avalon. I have 3 Facebook groups. So if you just Google Melanie Avalon group and Facebook, you can join me there. And then for the supplements, so I have, and I'll tell listeners briefly the ones I have so far. I launched with a serapeptase. That's a proteolytic enzyme created by the Japanese silkworm. It's so cool when you take it in the fasted state. So basically its main purpose for the silkworm is to break down the cocoon, but not actually hurt the silkworm. So it breaks down non-living tissue. Our version is made in a lab, so it's not actually made from silkworms. But when you take it in the fasted state, it goes into your bloodstream and then it breaks down problematic proteins that are building up in your body. So a lot of issues people experience, like allergies, inflammation, is the body reacting to things. So it clears your sinuses. Like, it's the most amazing thing for allergies. It reduces inflammation, helps with pain. It's amazing. So that's serapeptase. I have a berberine for blood sugar control. I have magnesium 8, which is a full spectrum magnesium with 8 forms, and then a magnesium nightcap, which actually is a magnesium that crosses the blood-brain barrier. And I just released a spirulina, which is a super potent superfood, blue-green algae that has just a shocking array of nutrients. So listeners can go to AvalonX.us. That's AVALONX.us. And use the coupon code HUMANELEMENT, and that will get them 10% off site-wide there. So awesome. They can definitely check that out.
Thank you. That's really cool. I love magnesium. I got turned on to that a while ago by a nutritionist to help sleep. And I could not believe how well that works. It's really, really great. Magnesium is a great supplement.
Have I sent you some? I've got to send you some.
No, I haven't taken yours. So I definitely want to check that out because that's amazing.
I will send you some for sure.
And we'll put the links to all of that for everyone who's listening. We'll put the links to all of that in the show notes so that we have all of that. You don't have to try to remember it. Okay. There's questions I always ask at the end of this podcast for everybody. And, for me, I know I wouldn't be sitting here today where I'm at if it wasn't for a few key mentors in my life. So who would you say are your greatest mentors that you've had in your life and career?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Well, growing up, honestly, it was my parents. I really, really looked up to them. And I'm so grateful, especially because I'm like right now, actually, I'm prepping 2 different episodes on childhood trauma. And I'm just realizing how much that affects people. And I'm just so grateful that I had a really loving, supportive family growing up. And I really looked up to my dad because he really like worked his way up in his career, which has nothing to do with my career. But I was always really inspired by his work ethic. And he also was really supportive of everything I wanted to do, which was like crazy dreams of acting and going to LA and all this stuff. So, and then now, I started doing what I was doing, well, in the diet world, paleo. Rob Wolf, he wrote a book called The Paleo Solution. I really look up to him when it comes to food choices and food quality. And I've been following his podcast for years and years and years. And then, Dave Asprey, who is kind of considered to be the like father of biohacking. He's probably one of the most famous biohackers, but I've been following him for years as well. And I'm friends with him now. I've had him on my show multiple times, and I just really look up to everything he's doing in the biohacking world. So
isn't that such a cool feeling when there's somebody like you've read their books, you listen to them, you follow them, and all of a sudden now you're like, oh, we're friends.
It's crazy.
It's a little surreal,
really
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That happened to me. One of my mentors, it was Dr. Paul Ekman, and I read all of his work on nonverbals. I followed him for years, and then I got to meet him because of the podcast. And then we became friends and he became a mentor. And I was like, that to me is like, feels like a dream. That's fake. It doesn't make sense. You read the guy's book and next thing you know, he's chatting with you on the phone and having video calls and teaching you things. It's just awesome.
Yeah. It's crazy. I'm so grateful.
And then the last question, our listeners, we have a lot of readers. People love to read. I think since 2009, I've been creating a list of books that people recommend. And they don't have to be about biohacking. You mentioned that one. We'll put in the book about the paleo diet. We'll put that in the notes too. But are there any books that you've read that you're like, man, everyone should read this book? I love this book.
So many books, and I'm literally reading books 24/7, prepping the shows. So the Paleo Solution, and I really like Lifespan by David Sinclair. If you want to get a deep dive into things that help support our longevity, I like Wim Hof's book, which is all about that cold exposure and breathing. And can I throw in like a random like one from childhood?
Of course, please.
People probably all know this, but I really love like Shel Silverstein, Where the Sidewalk Ends.
No, you know what? So sometimes we have people on and they recommend like science fiction. They don't mention anything about their work. And I'm like, that's great. That's perfectly great. So Shel Silverstein, and it was Where the Sidewalk Ends. Yeah.
That's like my favorite poetry book from childhood. So I wish I could read more now, like more fiction, because I read that like crazy growing up. I think my favorite book growing up was probably Jane Eyre, but now it's all health related, which is fun. But
I know it's hard though, because I do enjoy reading, and I have my bookshelf here that I like, and I would love to take time to read fiction again, but there's so much to learn, and I'm like, I only have there's only so many hours in a day that you can do things. So
so true.
Yeah. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. This was really fascinating and really great to be able to chat with you again. I know we've talked a lot, and but having you on the show has been really, really great. So thank you for coming back and doing this with me.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me, Chris. You're so amazing. When I had you on my show, that was just your book. Everybody needs to read your book.
Thank you.
It was so fascinating about, what really makes us tick and connect and how we interact with people. And I love the approach that you brought to it, which was, this is the way to like hack your social interactions, but coming from a place of ultimately make everybody better in the end. And I really, really appreciate that approach and mindset. And it was both an inspiring, but it was like very, very helpful, useful book.
That's really
but also very inspiring as well.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Well, it's a very nice compliment. I thank you for that. And thank you all for joining us this month. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. I know I did. And next month, we're going to be here with, believe it or not, he is a influencer, author, and a spy. Jeremy Hurwitz, I think is how you say it. We'll find out for sure next month. It'll be really interesting to see what he has to teach us. So until then, stay safe. We'll see you.